the site supervisor adjust the cost of that based on how often they're there, all this. Having some of a site supervisor is better than having none. I will say that. So if you're balling on a budget, take what you can get. And then number two, you need to clearly understand and have written to the contract with the construction company, overages. What are you allowing for in overages? Most of them are going to allow a 15 to 20% gap. So, hey, Stuart, we quoted you $400,000, or let's just do easy math, $100,000 for this construction project, but we're going to do 120 for an overage. That's what, if we go over, it'll probably be about 20,000. In there, you can have, okay, fine. Anything 21 and above, that's on you. And make sure that shit is in writing. Make sure that you've got a lawyer who looked at it, they'll give you an overage number to be like, yeah, so we'd like to have for contingency or an overage a certain percentage. And agree to it, because that is realistic. That's part of doing business in construction. But everything over that needs to be 100% on them.
And then what do you recommend a tenant withhold before?
So that's what we call milestone payment. So let's say it's $100,000 project, okay? Which it never will be. The average construction right now, retail wise, that we're seeing is if it's in a metropolitan area, you're getting up to $300 a square foot. So think about that, $300 a square foot in a 2,000 square foot spot. I mean, these prices get crazy.
I want you to hear this, Ken, because I know you're listening. I got in and out under $300K, including the staff salaries for the time before we opened.
Yeah.
That ended up being $100 a square foot, and we did it primo.
Yeah.
So I did not overspend.
I was on a call with a Metabolic franchisee, and I think they did $87 a square foot for their build out. And it just worked. Sometimes, again, you also lucked out. Yours was less expensive because of the use prior, right? Yep. So, I mean, like, there's certain factors. Though. Yeah, no accidents. Absolutely. You did that purposely.
Right.
But no, where was I at? What were we talking about before that?
You said the amount of, like, the withholding,
the milestones. Yeah. So let's say it's $100,000 budget for this thing. Then you go ahead and they will tell you what the draw schedule or the milestone schedule is. Okay, Stu, so here's the phases of the construction. And at phase 1, I need a check of $33,000. And on phase 2, which will probably be at about 13 weeks later, I need the next $33,000. And you guys just come up with it. They're never going to take all the money at once, and you never give it all at once. Especially if you're financing this through a bank, the bank is going to ensure you don't give them all the money at once.
Yeah, the fear I guess I have as a potential tenant, again, doing this all over again, is they think it's done. They think the additional overages are my responsibility because I changed things that changed the contract, and they don't have somebody in there who's doing the dual signing that explains these things as we go along. I'm like, you need to finish, and I need to get a CO so I can open. Like, I'm going to do that when you pay me. And so now I'm sitting there on a space arguing about principle, paying rent every day that the job is not done.
And most tenants don't realize this, especially if capital improvements are being done to the building. The capital improvements, for everyone listening, are essentially things that make the landlord's building more valuable. So plumbing, electrical, and HVAC, right? Heating and air conditioning.
We did HVAC,
yeah,
and we did electrical.
So you've made capital improvements to the landlord's building. The construction company is going to require the landlord to sign off on this so that if the tenant doesn't pay, they can place a lien against the landlord's building. And that's what we call like a mechanics lien or just a construction lien. So your landlord is also now financially responsible for the inefficiency if you've got a shoddy fucking team doing this whole thing and they're making capital improvements to his building. His insurance is going to go up instantly. By the way, the landlord's insurance, the second you start doing construction, goes up because he has to insure all the materials and everything happening with inside the building. Everyone just thinks like landlords just make easy fucking cash. I had a lien placed against my building with the brewery. The brewery had an outstanding debt of $20,000 with the construction company, and it was on a payment plan. Like they already knew about it. And it's $20,000 out of $1.5 million. It was like nothing. But technically they were going to file a lien on the building. Like that's how the paper trail goes. And we get it all taken care of and it was fine. But it's just like, people just don't realize landlords aren't just sitting there swimming in their Scrooge McDuck pool of fucking money. Like there are also a significant amount of liability. There are a project that I'm not going to name the gym, and I love these guys. in which they almost had to walk out. They were working on a construction project, new location. They ran out of money about 60% way through the construction.
Oh, it's brutal.
So the gym goes out of business. That means the construction stops. Now a landlord's stuck with 60% of what was going to be a gym.
And at least it's not going to be fulfilled.
At least it's not going to be fulfilled. Like these things happen, you know, and that's why, you know, landlords we're sticklers for making sure you're well financed, like making sure you're not, you know, I told Sean earlier, I'm like with real estate, if I'm the landlord and I'm looking at a tenant, or if I'm an investor and I'm looking at the building, or if I'm a gym owner, I'm looking at the building for a site for me. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. It's just too big of a risk financially for everybody to be like, yeah, I think it's going to work, right? I think it's going to work. And don't spend more than 25% of your revenue on your rent.